NASA's Voyager 2 mission, once considered just a bold experiment to study the outer planets, has now become the centerpiece of one of the most unnerving space mysteries humanity has ever faced. A story that began in 1977 when a Titan Centaur rocket hurled a car-sized probe into the heavens with less computing power than a modern wristwatch, yet armed with humanity's dreams carved into silicon and etched in gold. A machine not built for survival but for discovery, carrying the golden record. A cosmic message in a bottle containing Earth's greetings, its music, its heartbeat, its laughter, and even the cries of a newborn child, meant to drift forever through the galactic ocean in the faint hope that someone, somewhere, might stumble across it. For nearly 5 decades, Voyager 2 has sailed outward, past Jupiter's roaring storms and erupting moons, past Saturn's shimmering ring sculpted by shepherd moons no one knew existed, past Uranus tilted and broken like a cosmic accident, past Neptune with its great dark storm and Triton's geysers of frozen fire, rewriting our understanding of the solar system one snapshot at a time, until at last it crossed the invisible skin of the heliosphere and slipped into the interstellar medium, where the sun's protective wind dies and the galaxy's raw radiation rules, a place we once thought empty, silent, and featureless, but which Voyager revealed to be dense, alive, and chaotic, with twisted magnetic fields, unexpected plasma densities, and storms of cosmic rays that did not match our models. For decades it continued, powered only by a fading nuclear battery with less energy than a desk lamp, its antenna aligned so precisely that a signal from its 23-watt transmitter still took 18 hours to cross the void to Earth, when NASA's Deep Space Network strained to catch every whisper. But then, in 2020, something went wrong. A wrong command, a slip of human error, nudged the antenna away from Earth, and in an instant the fragile thread was severed. 10 days passed with no signal, and for those 10 days humanity stared into the possibility that its longest-lived messenger, its most distant machine, had finally gone silent forever, leaving nothing but a golden record adrift in darkness. Engineers at JPL and operators of the massive Goldstone dish tried again and again, firing commands into emptiness, knowing the chances of success were near zero, yet clinging to the faintest hope. And then, against all odds, Voyager 2 spoke. A heartbeat signal, faint but steady, was detected, confirming it was still alive, still holding on, still waiting. Relief swept through NASA, but the relief was short-lived, because what came next was not routine data. Systems thought long dead flickered awake. Instruments dormant since the 1980s came online as though someone, or something, had reached across the void and pressed reset. The data they returned was stranger still. Not random telemetry, but patterned pulses, echoes that looped and repeated, structured in ways that did not resemble cosmic noise or radiation interference. Publicly, NASA dismissed it as a glitch, but inside the labs, veteran engineers replayed the signals in silence, uneasy at what they saw. The patterns were too regular, too deliberate. It looked less like static and more like repetition, as though Voyager were not simply transmitting but relaying, as if it had heard something and was trying to repeat it back to us. The strangeness deepened in 2025. After years of steady drifting, Voyager 2 made a movement. Not a random tumble, not the kind of wobble expected from a decaying spacecraft, but a precise, measured turn, as though it had reoriented itself towards something unseen in the interstellar dark. NASA logged the anomaly with confusion, because such a maneuver required deliberate energy expenditure, something Voyager's weakening power should not have allowed. And yet it turned. And with that turn came new data, not the familiar plasma and cosmic ray counts, but something entirely unexpected, signals layered with rhythms, repeating bursts that rose and fell like language, like a call across the void. This time, the Deep Space Network leaned in, straining every dish across Earth to capture the faintest whisper, and what they found made the room fall silent. Voyager had touched something, or something had touched Voyager. It wasn't supposed to be out there, not beyond the heliopause, not according to every model and simulation humanity had built. And yet the probe's sensors told another story. The interstellar medium wasn't just a void. It was a boundary, a frontier alive with turbulence and resistance, almost as if it were pushing back against Voyager's intrusion. And then came the impossible, repeating binary echoes that aligned not with cosmic background noise, but with the cadence of structured information. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others whispered what no one wanted to say out loud. That Voyager 2 had not just stumbled into interstellar space, it had stumbled into a message. Because the turn it made was not random. It was reaction, as if the probe had looked over its shoulder before stepping into a place where it was not meant to go. And now, nearly 21 billion kilometers from Earth, with a transmitter weaker than a light bulb and memory smaller than the calculator in a school desk, Voyager 2 is sending back the most unsettling possibility in human history. That in the cold, black silence beyond the sun's reach, in the ocean of stars we once thought empty, we were never truly alone. And something out there, something old, something watchful, has finally noticed us. When Voyager 2 left Earth in 1977, few could have imagined that nearly half a century later it would still be drifting outward, beyond the warmth of the sun, carrying with it humanity's most ambitious declaration to the universe, a fragile spacecraft with less computing power than a wristwatch, yet equipped with the audacity to carry our voice, our music, our greetings, our coordinates, and even our vulnerabilities engraved in gold, as though the vast, indifferent cosmos might one day glance our way and listen. And for decades the probe rewarded that daring optimism by transforming our understanding of the solar system, painting worlds that had been smudges of light into living spheres of violence and wonder. Jupiter's red eye spinning with hurricane rage, Saturn's rings revealed not as static ornaments but as turbulent conveyor belts of ice and shadow, Uranus tipped on its side like a cosmic trick, Neptune howling with supersonic winds and geysers that defied expectation, each flyby a miracle of timing, trajectory, and precision that expanded humanity's horizon until the gas giants, once uncharted mysteries, became old acquaintances. Yet all of that triumph, all of those discoveries, paled beside what came after. When Voyager crossed the outer darkness where the sun's influence thins and the interstellar sea begins, because there the mission shifted from planetary science to something older and stranger. An encounter with the boundary between what we know and what we are not meant to. And for years the probe's data reassured us that the universe was silent, that the void was vast and indifferent, filled only with the sigh of particles and the slow hum of magnetic fields, until 2023. When Voyager 2 abruptly slipped into silence, its antenna nudged away from Earth by a missent command, leaving mission control staring at dead air for 10 long days. A silence that felt less like failure and more like a coffin lid closing on our oldest messenger. And then, as though mocking despair, the signal came back, faint, cracked, but alive, a heartbeat across nearly 20 billion kilometers that suggested not only resilience but something uncanny, for the probe had tilted, adjusted, shifted in a way that should not have been possible without explicit instruction, as though nudged by an unseen hand. And when engineers examined the telemetry, the hairs on their necks rose. The magnetometer had spiked violently in an empty sector of space where no such disturbance should exist. The cosmic ray detectors had registered bursts that arrived not in a scatter but in abrupt, rhythmic jolts, and most unsettling of all, a clean signal repeated itself every 61.2 seconds with the precision of a metronome, a pattern too strict for natural randomness, too measured for cosmic chance, almost as though something in the void were knocking on the hull of our understanding. At first it was dismissed as a glitch, interference, a misreading, but when the data was filtered and replayed, the rhythm emerged again. Lead pulses like the digits of pi folded back on themselves, repeating as though carved into the very structure of space, and veteran engineers, men and women who had dedicated their entire lives to this fragile machine, sat in silence, replaying the anomaly again and again, asking the forbidden question. What if Voyager had brushed against a threshold, not a natural one but a constructed one? A line in the dark meant to keep what's inside separated from what lies beyond, because the space around the anomaly was too clean, too sterile, stripped of dust and debris with surgical precision, more like a chamber than a wilderness, a dead zone that didn't look random but designed, like a test range or a laboratory enclosure. And if so, then Voyager 2 had not simply wandered into emptiness but into surveillance, into the watchful eye of something that had engineered the silence itself. Something that did not announce itself with spectacle but with patience, a rhythm like a coded heartbeat waiting for recognition. And the thruster anomaly, Voyager's subtle, inexplicable tone, suddenly felt less like a mechanical hiccup and more like a response, as though the probe had received a signal it was never designed to understand and had nevertheless obeyed, aligning itself with the unseen pulses as though acknowledging a superior instruction, which forced the chilling possibility that Voyager was no longer ours alone, that in the frozen gulf of interstellar space it had been noticed, tagged, and perhaps even claimed. And if that is true, then the golden record, that naive gift of songs and greetings and star maps, is no longer a message in a bottle but a beacon that may have given away not only our existence but our location, a flare shouting into the void at powers we cannot see, and what is wise, cannot predict. Some at JPL quietly whispered that the 61.2-second cadence was not just a signal but a kind of handshake protocol, the simplest possible demonstration of intent, like a knock repeated until answered. And that thought chilled even the most rational, because if Voyager was being tested for recognition, then silence was no longer safety but failure, a refusal to engage that might carry consequences beyond comprehension. Others argued it was a warning, a tripwire built into the edge of the heliosphere to detect anything crossing out, a sentry left by something ancient or alien or even artificial in origin, a system that does not allow escape without acknowledgement. And if that is true, then Voyager has not broken free into interstellar space at all but entered into someone else's territory, like a stray animal slipping under a fence it was never meant to cross, and every rhythmic pulse is less a greeting than a reminder. We see you. And so now each faint heartbeat signal that reaches Earth does not feel like reassurance but like a countdown, not to the end of Voyager's mission, but to the moment when the Watchers, whoever they are, decide to step forward. And humanity, having once dared to knock on the cosmic door, must face the reality that the door is not just real but already half open, and something, somewhere, is standing on the other side, listening.